Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Hello there. Look at this. We got a boom mic now. We're excited over here. So I'm not going to be leaning down, like those things those birds that are always trying to get the water. Yeah. I'm not going to be doing that. And nobody's going to be yelling at me that I'm not getting close enough to the mic. It's wherever I sit is where the mic is. So great. We're happy. We keep getting more and more toys to play with and fun things to do. This is Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Shakow and Mercandone Studios. We appreciate our sponsors so much and all the stuff they do. There are some openings available if you want to get in to be a sponsor here. Of course, we go out on YouTube and Facebook Live and on 39 other platforms, all the great platforms you can get, Google and all those other ones. So show has been really going good. We're getting ready to have our 100th show, and I'm excited about that. Full disclosure, we are taping this on Wednesday. I won't be able to talk about Florida's win over Ohio State or loss to Ohio State Wednesday night. I won't be able to talk about the Egg Bowl Thursday, which I can't wait to see. But we have a lot to talk about still, but we're taping it Wednesday. That way, Evan can go spend time with his family. I can enjoy a weekend with my family. It is Thanksgiving, but we'll be right back with it Monday. But the show is airing on Friday. So right now you're going, hey, why aren't you talking about the Gator basketball game? Well, I can't do that. If I could see into the future, I could do that. Woo! I can't do that. All right, so let's talk about where we are. And really, and by the way, our guest today will be Mike Huganin, of course, the executive sports editor for On3.com, which is a great publication. They got great writers working over there. They do really good work. And Mike is a former sports editor also at the Gainesville Sun. So let's we don't even want to talk that much about the game. The game itself almost is insignificant. You want to go get bowl eligible, but do I want to watch this team play one more game after the? Not really, but okay, I want them to get bowl eligible. And heck, look, I'm rooting for the Gators Saturday, and every Gator fan out there should be rooting for the Gators. Doesn't matter what anything else happens. I mean, you guys got your way. You got rid of the coach, the people that were so adamant that he needed to go. All right. Now you'll see what it's like. You saw what it was like without a defensive coordinator against Louisiana. Samford. You saw what it was like when you fire your offensive line coach against Missouri, and now you're going to see what it's like when you fire your head coach against FSU. That's the way it works. Amazingly, the fourth straight game Florida is playing against a team with the same record it has. I wonder if that is a first in history. I need to call Chris Felica and see if he can look that up. 4 straight games to finish the season, teams had exact same record as you did. I don't know that that's ever happened. And in this case, it's not good. I just worked on a thing for Gators Wire. I write for them 3 times a week and really enjoy doing it, by the way. And it was all about how in this series, when you look at the Spurrier era, there was one time when both teams weren't in the top 10. One time in 12 years. And that year was FSU had dropped off a little bit. They were 20th. Meanwhile, Urban Meyer faced FSU. And, of course, he had his other problems. He had his other demons, Urban Meyer played FSU. They were ranked 3 times, all 3 times 22nd or below. That he caught FSU at the right time. But he didn't really catch Alabama at the right time, with Saban coming there. So obviously Saban beat him his first year. He beat him his 3rd year or 4th year, right? Yeah. And then Saban beat him the 5th year and then beat him again the 6th year. So didn't go well. Anyway, that's a lot of malarkey. All right, so we got a lot to talk about, and mainly it is all the speculation about who Florida's going to hire, and the name Billy Napier keeps rattling around for people. Look, the inside dope that I have, and I don't have much. Okay, I'm not in the profession anymore. I'm just the dope. I am an inside dope instead of having inside dope. But what I have heard from fairly reliable sources, and I don't know that I would go with this, but it seems like Napier's their target. I know that somebody had a plane going out to Lafayette. In the first place, Lafayette doesn't have an airport. I don't think they do. Maybe they do, but I don't know if they can. If I don't know, all I know is when we went to Lafayette, we stayed there during Katrina for the game, and but we didn't fly into Lafayette. We flew into Baton Rouge. But whatever, we'll see what happens. We'll see if that keeps going. We'll see the interest level there, whether that works out. I would think they would let him coach this game against Terry Bowden, of all people, Louisiana Monroe, on Saturday. It's a rivalry game, and, have that game. I still am not happy that Florida didn't demand that Dan Mullen coach the last game, let alone let him off the hook. But and I'm disappointed in him for saying, I'm done. I don't want anything to do with it. And I don't think that's very good. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's smart. But it is what it is. So we'll see what happens with this whole Napier thing. I think that's the guy they're going after. I think they've got a better sell. I don't think him living in Louisiana makes him think I'd rather go to LSU. Living in Louisiana makes you probably more wary of Louisiana because there's a lot of politics going there, a lot of stuff that is different than anywhere else in the world. And it's not for everybody. And just like the Florida job's not for everybody. I mean, the Florida job, it's a hard job. These fans will turn on you like Thanos. I mean, they will turn on you. They love to be miserable sometimes. Some of them really like being miserable. And some of them are just, they get miserable, and sometimes it's just, there's a good reason to be miserable, like this year. So we'll see what happens. Oh, by the way, I wanted to bring this up. I mean, look, because we're recording this on Wednesday, by the time you're listening to this, they might already hire Billy Napier. I don't think they will, because I think they'll wait till after he gets to coach his last game, and Florida plays their last game. I know there was some talk about, well, what if Greg Knox goes out and kills it? Yeah, right. Nothing against him. First of all, I don't ever believe in giving a coach two jobs. Running backs coach and special teams coach, and now he's your head coach. Why do you think that's going to be good? There's no way. Oh, by the way, you don't have a defensive coordinator. The guy who put together your defense ran it, and now you don't have an offensive coordinator because that was the head coach at the University of Florida. So let's go. Let's go beat the Noles without any of our coaches. We'll just draw plays up in the dirt. How about that? Some of it's kind of crazy. We'll be back and also talk a little bit about the basketball team. What I saw out of the game on Monday. Of course, can't talk about the Wednesday game because we're showing this on Friday. So and we'll get to all of our other things as well. But right now, it's a great pleasure to bring on the great Mike Huganin, of course, the executive editor of On3.com. It's a great website, great writers on that site. Mike is one of them, and of course, former sports editor of the Gainesville Sun. You have seen him on here before. One of the smartest men I know, but the difference is he doesn't go around telling everybody he's the smartest guy in the room. Mike, how you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate the nice intro. No question.
Well, are you the smartest guy in the room?
Well, since I'm here by myself, me and my dog, I'm smarter than my dog. Hell yeah. So
yeah. Most of us are smarter than our dogs.
Yeah, most, not everybody.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you know the University of Florida. You have a lot of ties here. Your dad still lives in the area, right?
Yeah, my folks live in Gainesville.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but have you ever seen anything like this sudden fall, almost like somebody stepping off the edge of a skyscraper, just tumbling to the ground?
Yeah, it's the second time in a row with a football coach. I mean, McElwain was sort of the same way, though I would argue that McElwain's heights weren't as big as Mullen's, because I think even the second year of McElwain, they go to the SEC title game, they get blown out, and people are like, this this really isn't working very well. And then obviously everything imploded the next year. But yeah, I mean, you look at Mullen and sort of like the downfall started LSU last year. They should have beaten that team badly in Gainesville. The weird shoe toss by Marco Wilson, the very close loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game, then the no-show against Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. And then this year, oh my goodness, they almost beat Alabama, but then everything went off the rails. And I think if you're dispassionate about it, you look at the Florida roster and say, this is not a roster built to win a lot of games in the SEC. They have 4 defensive tackles that play a lot. 3 of them are grad transfers. Yeah. So where was the recruiting up front? And the one thing that's always sort of mystified me about Mullen, here's a guy who sort of cut his teeth under Urban Meyer, who was a recruiting demon. Right. Then he coaches in the SEC West, sees up close LSU and Alabama and how they recruit when he was at Mississippi State. So I thought he would get to Florida and be a better recruiter. He was sort of lackluster. And the problem was you can have a head coach who's a lackluster recruiter if your staff is really demons on the trail. And Florida's staff wasn't that good a recruiting staff either.
No, and they got rid of 2 of them that weren't very good at it, but I don't know who's good at it. But I think Christian Robinson is probably their best recruiter, but I'm not sure how good a defensive coach he is after that game with Samford. But, I have a theory on Dan Mullen, and that theory is that when he beat Georgia last year, from that point on, his stuff didn't stink. And so he just basically was like, I don't even care who we get. What players we get in here, I'll figure a way to win with them because I think you're right. Smart.
Right. The X's and O's, I think that he looked at the rosters and went, everybody wants Georgia's roster. The guys here really weren't highly recruited, and that they got the 5 stars over there. We got the 3 and 4 stars, and I out schemed them, and he did. And that last year's offense was epically good. Trask was fantastic. Pitts, Tony, Trayvon Grimes, yes, and they were extremely well coached. But those guys left, and then you realize I can be the greatest X's and O's guy in the world, but I ain't winning games against high-level opponents because at some point I need better depth. I need star players, and there weren't a lot of star players at Florida. And that goes back to, like you said, I can do what I want because I'm an offensive genius, and we're going to out-scheme everybody, and the X's and O's matter more than the Jimmies and the Joes. When obviously in reality, you got to have both.
You got it's not an either or, and people who always want to go either or, I go no, it's both. You have to have both.
Both, and you look at LSU, you look at Les Miles, look at Ed Orgeron. They won national titles, and I don't think either one of those guys would. They ain't the smartest guy in the room. Yeah. Let's put it that way. But they had a ton of Jimmies and Joes, and they had good coordinators on both sides of the ball that provided the X's and the O's, and they won national titles. Saban obviously is both. Kirby Smart trying to show he is both. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Still not sure.
I think he's gotten better though this year.
Yeah, and he has good coordinators too. So, but you got to have both, especially in a league like the SEC. If you're in Conference USA, or the MAC or the Sun Belt, and you're a great strategist, you probably can win the league. That you can't win leagues in the SEC being a great strategist without great players.
So who would you hire? Would you hire Billy Napier, which seems to be the trend that we're hearing out there? Although there's a lot of bad information out there, I will tell you that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of every negative for Napier is yes, but. Every positive for Napier's, yes, but. So I think there's a lot of questions about Billy Napier. If you're a Florida fan and you put up with the offenses of Muschamp and McElwain, you liked Mullen because of the offense. Louisiana is not anything special offensively. The only coach in that league that's truly special offensively is Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina, and Florida ain't hiring Jamie Chadwell. The recruiting standpoint, you figure, okay, here's a guy who worked for Dabo. Here's a guy who worked for Saban. He understands the importance of recruiting, especially in a league like the SEC. He's a CEO infrastructure guy, which is what Florida needs. Mario Cristobal, we keep hearing his name because he's a Florida native, obviously a Miami guy. Phenomenal recruiter. And you hear, well, he always seems to come up short. Well, maybe one reason he comes up short is he's at Oregon and he can't get 85 high-level players, which he could get at Florida. So, every coach out there has flaws. Every coach out there has positives. There are a lot of good coaches. There also are a lot of good coaches. But obviously, I don't care who the head coach is. He better have a really high-level staff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And it's kind of weird. The whole dynamic that's going on here has been kind of weird all year. And to see it make that turn where it goes from, Dan Mullen's going to be on the hot seat next year to the South Carolina game when you went, oh, no, he's right on it right now. He's sitting on it. Yeah, as we speak, he's on it. And that game, to me, is the game that got him fired.
Yeah. I think if you were on the fence about Mullen and then there was a defensive no-show, and you're like, this guy, he doesn't have the players to do it, and players he does have seem to have maybe given up on him. So
where do you think he ends up? Yeah, where do you think Dan Mullen ends up? Like, you think he'll go to the NFL, go to join Urban up there and be offensive coordinator?
From what he likes, just drawing up ball plays and all that kind of stuff, the NFL fits his personality better.
Yeah.
I think the most coaches like to be the boss. We actually have heard talk that he will be in the mix at Virginia Tech,
which I think would be a great landing place for him.
But if you're Virginia Tech, one reason you got rid of Justin Fuente was not a good recruiter.
No.
So I don't know why you'd bring in another guy who was not a good recruiter. But I think, the end, as you pointed out, was extremely swift for Mullen, and there was a lot of vitriol from a certain section of the fan base directed at Dan Mullen. Mm-hmm. But, the first 3 years he was here, it sort of cleansed everybody from the blindingly bad offenses they'd had for almost a decade. So from that standpoint alone, Florida fans owe Mullen some gratitude, because if you sat through Muschamp and McElwain and you were like, oh my God, this isn't even real football, at least Mullen brought back some joy when Florida had the ball.
I'm actually going to do something next week for Gators Wire. I think it's going to be called the Decade of Dysfunction, and do the 10 highlights, because that's the amazing thing about
there weren't that many.
But when you think about it, with Muschamp to go 11-2 and beating FSU in Tallahassee, and that was one. With McElwain, the back-to-back SEC East championships, the 2 Tennessee wins with miracle plays. With Mullen, obviously the 3 ball. There were highlights, but then it's like the ceiling wasn't quite high enough, but the floor was way too low.
It was a house built with a basement in Florida, which is, how can that be? But you're right. You look back at certain parts of the Muschamp and McElwain years, and you're right. There's very few highlights that you remember. I would argue there might have been more highlights in the last 3 years than there were in the preceding 7, especially offensively. But, Florida's going to be hiring its 7th coach this century. So is Washington. The only other school this century that's had that many coaches is Kansas. So Florida is in the same boat as Kansas.
They should try one every year, yeah.
And when it comes to football, man, you don't want to be in the same boat. You don't want to be in the same hemisphere as Kansas. But Florida and Washington are joining that hemisphere. Yeah.
And they've got the same record against Power 5 teams in the last 5 games as Kansas.
Right, and that's the mystifying. They fell, like you said, they fell off the cliff, man. It's mind-blowing how bad they have been this year. Yeah.
It hadn't been a lot of fun around this part of the country, I can tell you that. But I do think people are, they got to, like, it wasn't like a unanimous, we want Mullen out. There were people that did pause to think about it rather than just react to it. But my thing that I kept saying, and I said this on the show on Monday, Mike, you open next season with Utah and Kentucky. You keep Mullen, and you go and you lose those 2 games, which could very well happen, and it starts all over again. And I think that's probably what Scott Strickland, when he woke up Sunday morning and made the decision, that's the kind of thing that I'm going to go through 9 months of hell, and then the first couple of weeks, and then we may fire him then.
Right. And the famous Foley quote, what must be done eventually must be done immediately, or, paraphrasing there. But whoever the new guy is, God forbid he starts 0-2, because it'll be nasty right away. Yeah, exactly. What was Strickland doing hiring this guy? Yeah.
It will be at all these Gator clubs, and everybody will be loving it. Wait, you're the kind of guy we've been waiting for. We love you. You're great. Oh, your wife's great. Your kids look great. Man, it's going to be great. Loses the first game to Utah. What the hell were we thinking?
Right, exactly. But that's the way college football is. I mean, James Franklin's getting a 10-year extension. Mel Tucker a 10-year extension. It's ridiculous in a way.
It is. You pay what the market is out there, but again,
yes.
But these conferences keep just backing up their dump trucks full of money and dumping them on each campus. And
you're right. It's not a Brinks truck anymore. It's a gigantic dump truck, and it comes once a week. Yeah. How much?
Yeah. How much do we need to get rid of this coach? This is handful. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly right.
It's crazy. Right. All right, so we have the new college football playoff rankings. I don't think there were any big surprises there. I think we all knew, obviously, Oregon would be out, Cincinnati would be in there, but anything that caught your eye?
The committee loves Notre Dame, man.
Yeah, they do.
And, Notre Dame it's like a cork bobbing in water. It's a long way from the drain. And they're hoping other corks get sucked down, because they're going to be sitting there at the end of the season 11-1 with a pretty good chance to get in. I mean, if Cincinnati loses,
Stanford this week, right?
Yeah, and Stanford, you and nine guys at GHS could beat Stanford. When you give up 50 points to Cal, which can't play offense, something's wrong at Stanford. So, and I think David Shaw is a guy who's going to be going into next season a little bit on the hot seat. But, Cincinnati can they beat Georgia? No, I'm not sure anybody can beat Georgia. Can they beat Ohio State? No, but I'm not sure anybody can beat Ohio State, but they can beat everybody else. They already beat Notre Dame. I think they could beat Oklahoma State. I don't think a 2-loss Alabama team will deserve to be in the playoffs, so that would eliminate them after the SEC championship game. So Cincinnati's in a pretty good spot now, and I think Oklahoma State, they've given up 1 offensive touchdown in their last 4 games. Right. I mean, that's mind-blowing numbers, and in the Big 12, which knows how to play offense. Right. So I think they beat Oklahoma, and then I think they beat Baylor in the Big 12 title game, and I think Oklahoma, Cincinnati, Ohio State, and Georgia is going to be the 14th field.
Cincinnati's got to be hoping they can sneak into that 3 spot, because you don't want to play Georgia in that first game.
No,
I don't know where are the sites this year?
I think it's orange and.
I know. Yeah, cotton? It is the orange. Yeah, it could be the orange cotton. Yeah, because I bet it is the orange and cotton. So if you're Georgia, you're probably picking the orange is where you want to go.
You're picking Miami, right? Yeah, and you're right. No, I mean, Cincinnati, their fans earlier this year, we almost beat Georgia last year. It was a close game. Georgia didn't care. They didn't care. That's the thing.
They took the Florida approach.
Right. Well, they won. That was the difference. Yeah. But it would be a little bit different this year. And that Georgia defense is obviously extremely good. They got the Jimmies and the Joes, and they're extremely well-schemed defense as well. Though I still wonder about the Georgia offense, especially if they were to play a team like Ohio State. And if you're a Gator fan, man, I think I don't know. It's been easy to say 1980 for a long time now, but you might have to stop saying that soon, unfortunately.
I told everybody to back off a little bit this year.
Yeah, because this is a good Georgia team, no question.
It's really good. And I've said this, I think Georgia picked the perfect year to have a great team. In other words, there's no other great team.
No, there is no.
I know some people say Ohio State, but okay, they might be that. And to me, that's. I mean, is that the only team you can see knocking Georgia out?
Yes, I don't think Alabama's good enough.
No.
Jamison Williams is a fantastic wide receiver. The right side of Alabama's offensive line is not good. And we've had coaches tell us this for for scouting reasons. Hey, take a look at the Alabama offensive line on tape. Oh my goodness. So if every coach is saying that, Georgia's coaches have noticed. And, when you got, the defensive linemen, you got 3 potential first-round picks on the defensive line. And I think if you're a Gator fan, the idea that Jalen Carter from Apopka, which used to be a huge Gator pipeline,
sure.
Jalen Carter's playing at Georgia and playing well. Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, those guys I think are going to eat up the right side of Alabama's offensive line.
Well, don't forget though, when they get to that SEC championship game, Georgia and Alabama, that up in the commissioner's box, there'll be a little bit of this. I didn't see any holding. Those aren't the drones you're looking for.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix spoke for a lot of people in the SEC fans. So even if you don't like Bo Nix, you're like, I like Bo Nix now
because he's
willing to call out the refs. But some people pointed out that it's interesting he said that and he's not playing against Alabama on Saturday. So
yeah, well, the refs weren't going to try to hit you blindside you.
No, but yeah.
Well, all right. Let me go with this. Do you have a Heisman vote still, right?
Yes.
Okay, as do I. They haven't taken that away from me yet. And I don't know who I'm voting for. I think
this is a wide open field, man. This is.
I think too much is going to be put on the last 2 weekends.
Yes.
But it's just the way it's going to be. That's it is the way it's going to be. And I tell you, Jordan Davis is on my list. I got a list in mind of about 7 or 8 guys, and he's on that list. And I wouldn't mind voting him to win the Heisman if he went out and dominated that game against Auburn, then dominates against Georgia, and they beat Georgia.
Yeah, and the quarterbacks
beat Alabama.
Right. If the quarterbacks, the focal point of every offense, the ball in their hands every play. But yeah, Jordan Davis. Will Anderson, Alabama, the guy leads the nation in tackles for loss, tie for to me, he's more important to this Alabama team than Bryce Young is, because if you took Will Anderson off that defense, that is not anything close to an elite defense, but Will Anderson is an elite player. And if you compare other edge rushers to Will Anderson, Anderson is miles ahead. When you compare Bryce Young to other quarterbacks, there's 3 or 4 others having as good a season as he is. So, Kenneth Walker, I think, was the top of a lot of lists, and then last week he fell off. He's not winning now, which is unfortunate. If he had that game in week 2, nobody cares. But he had it in week 11. Year,
though. Yeah,
right, exactly.
He only had like 4 carries in the whole game, didn't he?
6 carries for 25 yards, and he had an ankle injury. But he did torch Michigan. And the thing is, the idea that Michigan State put up so many yards and so many points on Michigan, how are they going to stop Ohio State? No, they're not.
I don't know. Well, here's what they should come on. So it would be Nessler and Danielson doing the game, right, on the SEC championship game. And they should come on and go, we have a matchup of Heisman Trophy candidates. Jordan Davis and Will Anderson.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
And that's get that in the voters' mind that this is how. And then they'd start watching those guys. Look, as well as I do, Mike. There are too many voters in the Heisman poll. There are guys who haven't even worked for newspapers in 20 years that get votes, and some guys will let their wives vote for them. I think it ought to be reduced to 100 anyway, 100 people that really watch football, and then I would still get my vote. But but yeah, if you did something like that, I guarantee you that would change the narrative of the whole thing.
The narrative. Right, because every focus on every single game is offensive. Again, I think if you ask 100 hardcore football fans which defense has played the best over the last 4 weeks, Wisconsin, Georgia, or Oklahoma State, nobody would say Oklahoma State. They given up 1 offensive touchdown in 4 weeks.
I know. I've been watching.
That's mind-blowing. And Wisconsin's defense was playing great until last week. Georgia's defense has played well every week. But you're right, though. There's never enough focus put on defense. And you're right. That would be – very interesting if a bunch of stories and the TV telecast is focused on, we're going to spotlight the 2 Heisman contenders, they're defensive players.
Well, we've given them all the advice we can give them, and
Yes.
hopefully they take it, and we'll keep going. And I can't believe football season is almost over, Mike.
Sad.
It always flies by.
Yes, it does. You wait so long for it to get here. You know, like a little kid at Christmas, and then boom, like Christmas Day, it's gone. 13 weeks has gone by in seems like 13 days. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let you go. By the way, this was a conversation between 2 former sports editors at the Gainesville Sun.
Gainesville Sun, yeah.
It's hard to get to them together in one room, but I was thinking about that today driving in. About that was kind of when the Gainesville Sun was at its peak. Plenty of people working, people doing things.
Yeah. Good staff, money. Good people.
Yeah,
and covering a really phenomenal athletic program. Spurrier was in his heyday. Billy Donner was just getting started. Those were heady days, man, for the newspaper and for Florida Athletic Department, of course.
Now they are for neither.
But
I didn't say that. I think I still have a non-disparagement agreement so I don't think I can say that.
No, I loved working at the Sun, and Gainesville obviously is a fantastic place. So.
All right, my man. On3, do you got anything you want to plug for on3.com?
Just if you're a recruitnik, our database it's better than everybody else's. More information, it looks better. It's not even close to being finished either, but there's a boatload of information. So everything you want to know about Arch Manning, he's going to be worth $10 or $15 million from NIL before he even takes a college snap. Yeah.
He may get one. Can he get one from his dad? Because I've been to Manning's place. It's great in New Orleans. Maybe
he can. Yeah, technically, he can sign with anybody he wants. Yeah. Except some states don't allow high school players to benefit. Florida obviously is one of those. So think about all those kids at Montverde who could become millionaires.
I know.
As high school basketball players.
The world, it is a changing, and you better evolve with it, or you're going to get left behind. That's all there is to it.
You're right. It's going to be X's and O's, Jimmy's and Joes, and NIL opportunities from here on out.
Exactly. Well, appreciate you coming on, Mike.
Always enjoy it, man.
For the second
Happy Thanksgiving.
Time, we'll get same to you, and say hello to your dad. Haven't seen him in a while. Haven't gotten a mean email from him in a while, although I always enjoy him. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, man.
All right, Mike Huguenin, executive editor and writer for On3.com. It's a great website. As he said, they've got a great database for their recruiting. Everything's really done well there. Everything I read, Ivan Maisel writes for them. We may get Ivan on in a couple of weeks, too, as well. I think Andrea Adelson will be coming on Monday. We always love having her on. And nobody better to talk about what's going on in the state of Florida because she covers all the teams in the state of Florida. So we'll have her on then. I tell you what I'll do. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about basketball. And I know I can't talk about the game Wednesday night because we're doing this on Wednesday. But just what I saw from Monday's game and, of course, going to the game and where this team is and how we should look at the way it's going forward and where they're going. So I can still talk about basketball even though there's a game tonight. Win or lose that game isn't going to be the end or the beginning of the world. Trust me. But we'll be back and talk about all that and more. You're watching and listening to Another Dooley Noted Podcast. Well, actually, you're not watching it live, but you're watching it maybe somewhere or listening to it. Presented by Titan MRI from the Shackout and Mercandani Studios.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shackow and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shackow and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hey, this is Pat Dooley for the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they are having a trial membership here at the end of the season. It's really a great deal. We've talked about them doing it at the beginning of the season, and what they're doing is they're offering the next 3 meetings for $100. And believe me, you get a full meal out of this, too. Every one of these meetings. It's great speakers. The meeting dates for this are November 9th, 16th, and 23rd as we wrap up this college football season. Anyone interested in taking advantage of this trial membership can RSVP the membership leader at bob.bagley@pauldavis.com. Or you can just pay at the door.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Okay, welcome back to Another Duly Noted Podcast. Of course, always presented by Titan MRI. From the Shakow and Mercandone studios, and we appreciate all of our sponsors. One thing I did want to make sure I mentioned, and I know that this happened on Monday, but a good friend of mine passed away, Cecil Hurt, who was a columnist for the Tuscaloosa News, newspaper guy all the way, man, one of the kindest people you'll ever want to meet, was exactly what the University of Alabama needed to be as a columnist, because didn't overreact, didn't underreact. He always, his reactions to what they did and his opinion on what they did and why they did things was always right on. I always thought he was great at that. And it's not easy. It's never easy to be a columnist in a college town with a high-powered program. And he did a masterful job, and he passed away. He'd been sick for a while. He'd been in, I think, ICU for a while, and I don't know a whole lot about the details of it. It was devastating to find that out yesterday. In fact, found it out as I was driving around somewhere. Where was I? From here, where we did the radio show out here. So, and that's when I heard it. So, really bad news, and feel for his family, feel for him. And it was kind of emotional to have to talk about that last night at the quarterback club meeting. One more of those, by the way, to go. There's only one more, and it's in 2 weeks. If you want to get involved in there, believe me, it's worth it. It's so great. The speakers are great. Will Miles from Read and React was last week, or this week. Last week was Andy Staples, who was great. You've had Ben Troop and Cedric Faison and Spurrier and Bobby Stoops. They've had great speakers. So if you want to get involved with them and just go for one meeting, I'm sure you can work out a deal, have a nice meal, and listen to whoever. The next one is going to be when they honor all the high school kids. So it's really cool. That'll be it'll be packed in there. That's always a kind of a cool thing that they do. So at any rate, I did want to talk about also the basketball game on Monday, which I watched with my daughter, and we were like freaking out. We were like, what in the world is going on here? This team... And that's the thing about this team. This team doesn't always shoot well. Nobody always shoots well, but they're not a great shooting team, but they do get hot at times. They get on a roll. They do. It's the old what was the thing in The Natural where he said, losing is a disease. Well, making shots is a disease too. And if you start making shots, the other guy catches it. He goes, oh, I got it on me too. Boom, he starts making them. So that's a lot of it, and that's what happened in this game. They weren't real great on the Monday game against Cal early because they just turned up the intensity on defense, started making shots. Next thing you know, the game's over, and Cal's no good. I don't think they're very good. They're 2-3 now. Mark Fox is their coach. Mark Fox was always a good X's and O's guy at Georgia, but he never could get enough players in there to. And a lot of time, I've heard stories that Mark Fox didn't want to cheat, and that's why he couldn't get as good of players as he normally would get, as they wanted to get, to have enough players. And so they'd always have some good guys, but never enough. And they'd win a game here and there, and you'd surprise somebody, but just not sustain success, which is, again, that's what we're dealing with here. And that's what happens. You get fired when you have something like that. And so we went to Nevada and now at Cal. So, and again, we can't talk about the Wednesday game because we don't know what's happening. We're taping this on Wednesday, but whatever happens in that game, I don't think it's the end all or be all. Here's the way to look at it: if Florida loses that game, okay, lost a neutral site game to probably a top 10, top 15 team. If they win that game, it's just great for them. If they lose it, it doesn't hurt them. If they win it, it helps them. That's why you schedule tough games. I know they got Oklahoma and Oklahoma State coming up, games like that. But that's why you do that, because you don't get hurt when you lose, but you get helped a lot when you win, especially a neutral site game. So it's important, and I hope they won tonight. Can I say that in past? But, it's a long, long season. So don't get too bent out of shape if they don't play well tonight, and don't get too excited. I think I mentioned this last week. I remember Sam Cavaras coming up to me the day Florida almost beat Duke. And remember, they were ahead of Duke in that tournament, and they started knocking down shots all over the place. And he came up to me and said, Sam Cavaras, and said, Florida's going to be a Final Four team, aren't they? And I went, well, I don't know. They might be. Well, look, they weren't. They didn't even get close to the Final Four. They weren't that good. Teams figured out, well, we got to take away the three. Okay, and they didn't have anywhere else to go. So as you go along in a basketball season, teams get better. But they get better at the things they're not good at. And they get better at taking away the things you're good at. So everything, the early part, everybody's just kind of, it's almost like you're constantly playing in an NCAA tournament. You can scout a team, you can look at a team, but it's not the same. When you get into the SEC play, it's totally different. Everybody's seen each other. They played against each other. Even the newcomers haven't played against you, but you've studied a lot of them. You've had a lot of time to look at them. It's a different world. So we'll see what happens as we go forward. Right now, it is time to do three things. And, of course, as we all know, Three Things is presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. All right, Three Things presented by Hand Law here at the Shaq Allen Mercandone Studios. Number one, college football new rankings are out. As we were talking with Mike Huguenin about, pretty much got everybody in order. I told you guys this is what will happen, but there's still outliers that could get in. This thing is far from over. I mean, I don't think Cincinnati's going to lose another game, but they are going to play a championship game next week against a team in Houston that hadn't lost but one game and has a pretty good coach as well. I still think Michigan's got a chance. I still think, like, if Michigan beats Ohio State, don't they just switch places with Ohio State? That could happen. Notre Dame, obviously, as he said, they're kind of a bobber, waiting for the other bobbers to get sucked down. Oklahoma State. There's teams that still have a chance to get in. And the funny thing is here, when I'm sitting here, I go, which teams do I want to see play? And that's the problem. Which teams do I really want to see in? Not who deserves it, but who do I want to see? It's almost like two different rule sets. Not that that's what the committee's using, but me. I'm just saying. Like, I would like to see Ohio State, and I'd like to see Oklahoma State in, too, just to see what they would do. I'm just curious because they've never been in. And certainly Cincinnati. I want Cincinnati to get in, but I want Cincinnati to be in as a 4 and play the number 1 seed and with all its manpower and see how – and that could be where Cincinnati could lose that game really badly, and then all of a sudden everybody go, hey, next time you guys don't even bother going undefeated. We're not letting you in. All right, number 2 on 3 things presented by Hand Law. I didn't stay up last night and watch this, and I should have, because I wanted to see Dickie V more than anything because, of course, combating cancer, finally cleared to do games, and did the game last night. Gonzaga and UCLA 1 versus 2. We remember the great game they played last year in the NCAA tournament. Not this year, they didn't play a great game, but Gonzaga did, 83-63. And the good thing is, though, is that obviously Dickie got very emotional, but he certainly was appreciative of everybody, and I'm happy to have him back. By the way, Andrew Nembhard in that game, 24 points. I thought he was leaving Florida because he wanted to go to the NBA quicker. And next thing you know, he's going to be playing his 9th season. But he's a good player, and he's doing great for them, and he probably found the right spot for him. Good for him. And then finally on 3 things, number 3, this is something I kind of forgot about on Monday's show, but you may have noticed, and I did. I watched a little bit of it. Tyler McCumber, former Gator, of course, and everybody knows him up in Jacksonville. Mark McCumber's son, Josh McCumber, who also played at Florida, is a nephew, I think, and so he'd be a cousin of. And he actually caddies for him. I don't know if he's caddying for him now, but he caddies for him a lot. Shot a 60, had a shot at a 59 in the last tournament of the year on the PGA Tour, and finished tied for 4th. So nice check, and that's great for him. We appreciate that. We're big Tyler McCumber fans. In fact, maybe we'll get him on the show someday. We may get Marco on the show too. We need to get some golf people on the show. We've had J.C. Deacon. So there's one golfer. But anyway, congratulations to Tyler McCumber. That's a nice check, too. You finished tied for 4th in a PGA Tour event. So those are the 3 things presented by Hand Law. Let's quickly do the Adams Ribco to go. Gator of the Week before we get to our next break, and then we'll have the Leonardo's Quick Picks, this, that, and the other, and the Hesser and Kipke Games of the Week. So our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the Week, Lomas Brown. Lomas Brown, who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think it's December 7th, College Football Hall of Fame. They had to wait a year because of COVID, but he will be Mr. Two Bits for the game tonight, and I am so happy. We had him on our show a month ago, I think it was, and he was great and always was a great guy and the best offensive lineman to ever play at the University of Florida. You can argue Marquise Pouncey. You can argue some other guys, you can argue Phil Troutline, pretty good tackle to win championship. You can make arguments, but I will fight you over Lomas Brown. He was the best to ever play here, and his name should be up in the Ring of Honor, but at least he's getting to do Mr. Two-Bit. So he is our Gator of the Week, and they're thinking about lining him up, dressing him out, and letting him play right tackle for this game, and maybe they can solve those Gene DeLance problems over there. All right. That is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the Week. Thanks so much to Adams Ribs. And live from the Shack Allen Mercantile, not live, but tape from the Shack Allen Mercantile Studios. We'll take a break, then we'll come back. And when we come back, we will have our Leonardo's Millhopper quick picks, this, that, and the other, and the Hesser and Kipke games of the week. We'll be right back on Another Dooley Noted Podcast, presented by Titan MRI from the Shack Allen Mercandone Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shakow and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shakow and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hey, this is Pat Dooley for the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they are having a trial membership here at the end of the season. It's really a great deal. We've talked about them doing it at the beginning of the season, and what they're doing is they're offering the next 3 meetings for $100. And believe me, you get a full meal out of this, too, for every one of these meetings. It's great speakers. The meeting dates for this are November 9th, 16th, and 23rd as we wrap up this college football season. Anyone interested in taking advantage of this trial membership can RSVP the membership leader at bob.bagley@pauldavis.com, or you can just pay at the door. Okay. I'm kind of underdressed today, aren't I? Well, I wore this because Eli Drinkwitz wore a hoodie, and then he. I don't know if you saw what he said yesterday on 1010XL. Somebody asked him about how he brought the lightsaber, and said the Force be with you, and he said, "Look, my dad told me this a long time. You reap what you sow. If you sow jackass, you're going to reap jackass." So stuck that right up Dan Mullen's butt. But they won't be able to fight anymore because he's not the coach anymore. All right, let's get to the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. A bunch of you did qualify. Not all of you, though. About half and half. A lot of people that got in went with Florida. to cover and Florida to do the whatchamacallit. So the more rushing yardage. But the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks today. Just talked to Kyle over there. We're going to have a meeting. Looks like we've got our golf tournament set. Looks like it's going to be April 30th. I'll let you know when it's official because there won't be much room for anybody who wants to get in, believe me. So the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks here at the Shackle Mercandani Studios. We do this every Friday and every Monday. Florida State's getting 2.5. That's where the spread is now against Florida. You want Florida State in the 2.5 points or Florida? I personally would take Florida State. That's me. It's the kind of guy I am. And then the second one I was going to do was over and under 8 plays for Anthony Richardson. Now, there's a rumor out there, and maybe by the time that the show comes on Friday, it's already out there, that AR is going to play a lot in this game. So I will still put it out there. It's a gimme. He may even start. He'll probably play 8 plays, but you never know. I mean, he goes out there and twists his ankle and doesn't play after the first play. So I'm going to leave it out there. It's a softball for you guys to try to qualify. You have to get both right, though. You have to get the FSU pick against Florida and the over-under correct. So 8 plays for Anthony Richardson, although I am hearing he's going to play a lot, maybe start. All right, it is time now for the Hesser and Kipke Games of the Week, and we appreciate another one of our double sponsors, Hesser and Kipke. Their Games of the Week are brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, a law firm based in Hale Plantation specializing in employment, workers' comp, and family law. Visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920. Have to get the Penn State one in there because he's a Penn State guy, and he wants Bill O'Brien to be the new Florida coach. Penn State is a 1-point favorite at Michigan State. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, that they're still favored at Michigan State. Boy, that Michigan State left a bad taste in some mouths. The state game of the week this week is obviously Florida State here in Gainesville. Didn't have a game last year. So it does, and I don't think anybody's even writing about that or just to not have that game. It's kind of weird last year. In fact, I had thought they had played at some point. I said something stupid. I think I said you could win 4 in a row and get fired against FSU, but they only played twice. Dan Mullen did retire or did get fired at 2-0 against FSU, 1-0 against Miami, 4-0 against Tennessee. Those are rival games. It's not good enough. You had to get out of here. Florida is, as I said, a 2.5-point favorite. So that's the state game of the week. The SEC game of the week is still Alabama-Auburn. Even though Alabama is favored by 19.5, Auburn is always a big game. And then the national game, Ohio State-Michigan. Obviously, Ohio State favored by 8. My under-the-radar Hesser and Kipke game is the Clemson-South Carolina game because I am by the way, 11.5-point favorite Clemson. I'm just curious to see if South Carolina can finally get back and beat them. I mean, there was a long run when Spurrier was beating Dabo every year, and then all of a sudden that came to a halt, and then he beats South Carolina every year. But, they're off a little bit, and we'll see what happens there. All right, that is going to do it for our Hesser and Kipke Games of the Week from the Shackle Mercandani Studios. Last thing, this, that, and the other. You always like this. Brought to you by Dar Shackle Insurance and by Ballyhoo Grill and by Ironwood Golf Course. We're not going to fire coaches during COVID. You know that's not going to happen. With COVID, with the pandemic going on, schools are hurting for money. And in fact, we'll carry that over probably a year because everybody's going to be hurting for money. So coaches, nah. That's this. The other is everybody's getting fired. Everybody gets fired. Schools are throwing money around like they don't, big deal. We're going to fire coaches left and right. We don't have any problem with that. The other is that coaches in demand are making a fortune off of this. They don't even have to be good. Think about this. Hugh Freeze is at Liberty, right? Has a 7-4 record this year where you're not playing against the best teams. They play some Division I teams or Power 5 teams. 7-4. He's about to get a huge, huge raise. Mega deal, they're calling it, because people are hitting around that they may want to hire him, or his agent's putting it out there that they may want to hire him. We just saw what happened when Mel Tucker got this unbelievable record deal. Hadn't signed it yet. It's not finalized. Maybe they won't finalize it because he got beat 56-7 this weekend. James Franklin, everybody's in love with, 7-4 this year. Has a track record of not beating top 10 teams, but people are interested, and he just signed a 10-year extension to pay him $7 million a year or something like that, $7.5 million, plus a $1 million a year insurance policy. That's what happens. The guys who make out the best during coaching searches are the guys in demand, and they don't even have to get new jobs. They don't have to change their addresses. They don't even have to clean out their office. Same thing. Just give me more money. That's cool. That's this, that, and the other. Brought to you by Darshackow Insurance, Ballyhoo Grill, and Ironwood Golf. So that'll do it for another Duly Noted podcast. We appreciate everybody for watching, for clicking on the day after Thanksgiving. And we'll see what happens going forward. Now, it's very possible that as you're watching this, they've already hired Billy Napier. And if that's the case, what are you going to do? We'll talk about it Monday. I got a feeling we'll be talking about somebody on Monday. Until next time, from the Shackow and Mercandone studios, I am Pat Dooley saying so long from the Sunshine State.